Hey y'all, welcome back to Twin Oaks Family Farm in rural southeast Ohio, USA. I'm in the meat bird production barn with 420 Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens that are 37 days old. They are what we call finished, meaning that really they're ready to go be butchered and be processed into poultry. So this is a food factory. We are making wholesome food. We're making delicious chicken right here on our small family-run, independent poultry farm operation. So I'm going to show you the flock, but today's video is about feathering on the Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens, because sometimes with Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens, it looks like they're nearly naked. It looks like they don't have enough feathering. So just going to give you the brief explanation of why that is actually normal. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at some of the birds. Like I said, they're 37 days old, and these birds are really specialized hybrid, just developed over decades through selective breeding, and it's selective breeding over multiple generations and several breeds of chickens. Okay, so actually the understanding is that for the most part, specializing in these Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens in the selective breeding of them is something more or less done really at professional hatcheries. So for the most part, people like us who raise them specifically for meat production, the way that we get the birds is to order chicks from the hatcheries. Okay, so as you can see though, just taking in some of the birds that we're showing in the camera here, there is a little bit of variance bird to bird in the amount of feathering that they have. The white feathering that's on these Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens is very distinctive to them, very identifying of this breed type. And I said earlier, these birds are finished, so meaning they're ready to go to the processor. We're going to take them to the processor at 41 days old. So people that professionally butcher poultry and have it either made into whole chickens or cut into custom poultry cuts there, like boneless, skinless chicken breasts, drumsticks, wings, boneless, skinless chicken thighs. We even can get ground chicken made and have that formed into ground chicken patties. So for the most part though, you can see as far as the feathering, the birds are well feathered. In some individuals though, it just looks like they never grew their feathering in. And so we want to give some explanation on that, because oftentimes people that aren't familiar with Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens will misinterpret that. Like they may think that the birds were fighting and that one lost its feathers fighting. Or if you see the underbelly of a Cornish Rock Cross meat chicken, they actually don't grow their feathering in on the underbelly. And so sometimes people will misunderstand that and think, oh, the bedding material must be causing friction that's rubbing those feathers off and breaking those feathers off. But that's not the case at all. They just don't feather in there. And so why is that with these meat chickens? Why is it? And like there's a good example one there. We can see a lot of the pink skin showing through. There's another one. A lot of the pink skin showing through. So why is it that they don't feather in the way that egg production chickens feather in, and the way that like the ones even in this flock that have more feathering? Why don't they all feather in like that? Well, obviously, you know, there's just individual variances from bird to bird, but for the most part, these birds just aren't going to feather in as much as your egg production chickens for a couple of reasons. First of all, their rate of growth is so rapid compared to egg production chickens. We don't have a visual example of this to show you, but one time we had a group of egg production chickens, they were Orpingtons, being raised at the same time in the same spot as a group of our meat production chickens, and they were exactly the same age. And at about 2 weeks old, we ended up taking a profile picture of a Cornish Rock Cross meat chicken standing in front of an Orpington chicken at 2 weeks old. And the Cornish Rock Cross meat chicken was about 3 or 4 times bigger than the Orpington, than the egg production chicken, okay? So these birds just grow so fast. And when that gets to the stage of their feathering growing in, that's what the holdup is. It's not that these birds aren't feathering. In fact, they're feathering probably pretty comparably. They're growing their feathers in probably pretty comparably to the egg production chickens that we're more accustomed to. But these birds are growing overall so much more rapidly that their skin is expanding more rapidly, and the rate of feathering doesn't keep up with how quickly the skin is expanding. Isn't that something? Okay, so they're just fast growers. But they're meant to be fast growers because their genetics from the selective breeding has tended toward those qualities of growing rapidly, converting feed to meat quickly, and putting the meat onto the places we want it on the bird, like the chicken breast, the drumsticks, the thighs, okay? So that's the main thing. Just they're growing so fast, their skin is expanding rapidly, and the feathering rate isn't keeping up with how quickly the skin is expanding. The other thing is to consider, protein is turning into meat, okay? Because meat is protein. So, like for example, these birds, we're feeding them a 22% protein feed, okay? And that supports not only their rapid growth, but it supports the feed to meat conversion. Compared to like an egg production chicken, you know, they're getting protein in the high teens, or you know, close to maybe 16% protein. So these birds are getting 22% protein value in their feed. So that protein is there to help with the feed to meat conversion to get that meat on that meat production animal. Now, likewise, feathers are also made almost entirely of protein, okay? So the protein really is diverting into the meat production. So, you know, it's not, its primary purpose isn't feather production. It's going into the meat production. So that also contributes to not having some of the individuals feather in quite as quickly. But anyway, it is interesting that is kind of a distinguishing trademark of the Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens. It seems like they don't feather in, but actually they are really feathering in. It's just that they're growing so fast and rapidly. And see, like there's an underbelly. There's a little bit, you know, you can see like the quills of the feathering. There's a little bit where it goes in, but for the most part on that underbelly, they're just not growing feathers in there. So we always want to just inform that it's not that any of these birds are fighting and pulling each other's feathers off. It's not that the condition of the bedding is causing rubs that is breaking the feathering off of the underbelly or anywhere else. It's just normal for Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens to appear to have fewer feathers than their egg production counterparts, okay? And so what we've learned today is that, in fact, they are feathering in pretty well and pretty typical, but it's their rate of growth being accelerated that gives the appearance that they're not getting the feathering in the same way that egg production chickens do. So thanks for joining us. There's 420 of them here, and these birds are ready to go to processing for poultry. And folks, that's how real good chicken is made. It's made from real chickens, raised with good management practices, and we encourage you to eat real food, eat real good food, source as much of it as you can right from where it was produced, and support local agriculture wherever local is for you. God bless y'all.